video, you'll learn how to integrate an AI-powered video generation feature directly inside of your Bubble app. Look, there's no denying that AI-created videos are all of the rage right now. So this is the exact tutorial you need. There's so much that we need to cover in this, so what I'm going to do is hand this one over to Luca, and he's going to walk through everything you need to know.
Hello everyone, today we're going to be integrating Seedance and working out how to get the API calls running smoothly. Now Seedance is probably the best and cheapest video generation model, and it is from a company called Byte Plus. I think they're a Chinese company. So if we jump into our Bolt editor here, you can see we've got a very simple UI just with a video player, and then we can enter what video we want to see. We'll do a surfer riding a huge wave. Camera zooms into a shark chasing them. And we're going to hit generate. And now what's happening in the back end is on our workflow here, we've got a API call to actually send a generation request. And then we've got a backend workflow, which is a loop. And so it's constantly getting the video, so it's checking its status, and when the status is succeeded, then the API call that then does this again and loops it, then doesn't run because it only runs when it's running, and then the create new video only runs when it is succeeded, which is the status of the API. So if we go back to our UI here, you can see that the video has just been generated. So if we hit play, we've got a surfer, and then we've got our shark. Pretty cool video, I'd say. So first of all, what we're going to want to do, jump into our Bubble editor here, and we'll create a new web page. And now we've got our empty page here. What we're going to want to do is first add a group into here, and we'll call this the input group. And if we click onto our page, we'll set it to a column layout, everything central, also center that group. And what we're going to want to do is literally just grab an input group into our input group, which is a bit of a tongue twister, and then grab a button here, also drag it into the group. So if we go into the input group and we change it to row, and then go to layout, uncheck, make it fixed width, and then click fixed width to content. We'll make that 0, and then we'll also change the minimum height to 0 as well. So everything lines up nicely in our group here. I'll just center this to the height so it lines up nicely. And we'll change our buttons type, what we want to see. And so if you just use the stock Bubble plugin, you can see that the only options we have for the video source is YouTube or Vimeo. What we actually want to do is install more. And then if we type in the video, you want to download this HTML5 video here, and then we'll just drag that onto the page. Again, we'll centrally align it, we'll add 20 pixels of margin on the bottom, and then we'll make this element fixed width. Looks a little bit funny, but if we actually initialize this, just to see how that looks, you can see that it's formatted properly. So let's create a new API call. So the first thing you're going to want to do is download the Bubble API connector. We'll add another API. We'll call this byte_video here. And what we want to do now is actually, if we go to this website here, seed.bytedance, then we can click get API here. So once you're actually logged in, you want to go to the home section, which is probably where you'll end up after you're logged in. Then you're going to want to find ModelArc. So once we're in ModelArc, what we want to do is create an API key. So if we create an API key here, create it, and we'll have that for later. Next, we'll go to online inference. We'll create an endpoint. We'll call it whatever we want, but we do want to add our ByteDance Seedance 1 to light here. Click OK. You want to make sure this is active. If we hit create, then you can see we've now got our code that we need to do for our actual API call. So if we first copy this, go back to our Bubble editor, we can import another call from CURL, hit paste and import. This is good. So what we want to do is we'll call this the generate video, and then if we go back to Seedance, we can copy the get call, which is gonna allow us to see whether it's complete or not. We'll hit paste into there. Query is messing it up. If we import here, we again have our API call set up. So we'll say get video status. And now what we want to do is go and copy our API key and paste it into here. So again, we'll go back to the Byte Plus, go to API keys, we can see the key and we can copy it. So we'll just go back and then paste it into here and we'll paste it into here again. Okay, so first of all, let's initialize our call to see if it's working. And we've got our task ID here. So now if we copy that, then we can go to this API call and check its status here. So as you can see, it says task dash and then bid, which is actually the ID we just copied. If we do 2 square brackets and put ID in the middle, we can now dynamically change that. So when we create a new video, we can pass that through. So if we paste that one in there for now, we'll then hit initialize and you can see the status is succeeded and we've got our content URL here. One thing we do want to do is want to dynamically change what actually comes out here. So if we copy or select all of this and delete it, and then add 2 greater than and less than size, and then we'll call this content, we can again dynamically pass data into here. Now, one thing we do want to do before we start building our workflows is change both of these to actions. So we're able to use them as actions in our workflows. And then we can head on over to our design tab. We click generate here, we can add a workflow. So we want to add a new action, go to our plugins here, and then you can see we've got our API calls that we can access here. If they're not here, it may be because you haven't changed that data tab to action. So if we click generate video, we've got our authorization here. Now we have that content input field we add onto our page. And then we're gonna wanna actually trigger our backend workflow. So we need to create the backend workflow now. Add new. This is going to be a API workflow, and this will be check_video. We'll let it run without authentication, so we just click all of this. Now, the thing we want to pass in, we can now pass the ID from the end of our previous API call, and then what we want to do from there is check its status. So get info. Now the ID is going to be this ID field we just created, and then we're going to want to create a new thing, and the type is going to be video, and I've already created that. Essentially all it is, I've just named a data type video, and the only field I have is just the file URL as a file here. So you would add that by going create new and then scroll down and click file here. Okay, so we go back to our backend workflow. We can now select that video. File URL is going to be the result of step 1's video content URL, but we only want this to succeed when the status of the result of step 1 is perfect. Now, if we were to leave this like this, it would just run once, and because the video would be generating, it wouldn't say succeeded, so we wouldn't create a video, and when it did succeed, eventually, we wouldn't have anything updated. So what we actually want to do is run a scheduled API workflow, and that workflow is going to be this check video workflow. So essentially it starts a loop. The ID, again, we'll pass it through as result step 1's ID, because it may not actually repopulate this ID field every single time. And then we'll do the current date and time for when we schedule it, so it will schedule immediately, but we only want to have this run when the result of step 1 status is, and if we go back to our plugin here, and if we generate a new video of a, I don't know, pig, hit initialize, if we copy this, hit save, we'll go down, paste that into here, reinitialize. You can see the status when it isn't succeeded is running. So if we copy that, go back to the backend workflow, and then we can just paste that is there. Perfect. So now the only thing we actually need to do is go to our design tab, and for the dynamic link of our video player, to keep it simple, what we'll just do is we'll choose our video and we'll choose So what we want to do is we want to use video. This will search all of the videos within our whole database for all users. We'll choose the last item, so the last one that's been generated, and we'll choose its URL here. So now if we publish this, you can see we've got our video from before, but what we'll do is surfer on massive wave being chased by a kraken. Where initialize or generate. And one thing you can do is it's really easy to see what's going on if you do step by step, but that unfortunately doesn't work for backend workflows. But what you can do to see what's happening on the back end is go to logs and then server logs. And then if you hit search, you can then see all the API requests being done. So you can see we did our post request, all that good stuff. Dating. If we check our data here, we'll go to video, app data. You can then see when the new field has been generated. And we don't actually have our new video. So if we double check our workflow here, we can see that we actually haven't even triggered that backend workflow. So that might help. So if we go here, backend workflows, schedule API workflow, video, now we can pass in the result of step one's ID. Then we can schedule that for the current date and time. And then we'll initialize again. Surfer being chased. Go back to our server logs here. See we got our get video action running. And we now have a new video been created, but we didn't actually get our URL field to update. And that is because actually want to do, instead of the ID, we're going to choose the ID field for the schedule another API workflow section here. And then if we do that again, refresh. So if we want to change on the schedule workflow to ID instead of the result of step one. And then if we actually look here, we've now got an error in this dynamic piece of text. And that is only because we went to here and we reran our get video status when it was running. And so if we reinitialize it, because that video has been created now that we tested with before, and then we go back, you can now see that has gone blue. So now that's working properly. So now if we run it, we're there. So now we can play it. Apparently we were in London as well. Quite a cool video. But there we go. So I hope that wasn't too complicated. It involved some backend workflows and API calls, but now we've got a fully functional AI generated video, very basic application, but you could obviously use the different APIs, stitch them together, create really long videos. And yeah, you're now able to integrate it into your application. So as always, tell us what videos you want to see next. And thank you very much for watching.
And just like that, you now have a fully functional AI-powered video generator inside of your very own Bubble app. If you found this video useful and you wanted to stay up to date with any additional Bubble resources we share, I'd always recommend hitting that subscribe button on our channel, so that way you can be the first to know whenever we drop a new tutorial. For now though, I just want to say a massive thank you for taking the time to watch this specific video, and I wish you all of the best on your own no-code journey.